We have Ingrid Tighe with us today from Michigan Veterans Affairs Agency. There we go. So she's going to be doing the workshop today, so we hope you will enjoy it.
Morning, everyone. How's everybody today?
Good.
I'm not going to say behind this either. Well, like Rhonda said, my name is Ingrid Tighe. I'm with the Michigan Veterans Affairs Agency. I am the employment leader over there. I oversee our section for all things veteran-related and employment-related in the state of Michigan. Just a little about my background. After college, I was commissioned in the U.S. Army. Was active duty almost 7 years, overseas in various places to include Baghdad and Iraq. When I got out after that 7-year period, I was not quite sure what I wanted to do. It was, you don't know what you don't know when you enter the civilian sector. So I, at that time, went to a recruiter and found a job in the civilian sector, but it took a long time to sort of figure out what my niche was. I think it was a good 6 to 12 months. To identify really what is it that I wanted to do. You know, I knew I had a lot of good training in the military, I had a lot of leadership, I had a lot of good experience for my service, but I knew that at that moment I did IT in the Army and telecom. And one of the many stories I tell is I made my first resume when I was getting out, and it was a lot of military jargon, acronyms, and I sent it to a few of my college roommates who had never been in the military, and so I don't even understand this. And they sent it back to me with red marks and edited, and then I sent it back, and I mean, they just, they tore it apart, which was good. It was very helpful to me. But I just had no idea how to speak civilian at that time. It was really challenging. And I finally got to the point after many iterations of the resume and lots of work talking to friends and with a recruiter that I got to the point where I could talk to civilian employers and recruiters and people in talent acquisition and explain to them, hi, I'm Ingrid Tighe, I served 7 years in the Army, and I was the equivalent of a manager, a mid-level manager for AT&T or Comcast. Aha, okay, that made sense to them. When I said signal officer before, big round eyes, no idea what that meant. So it took a while, and so as you all know, it's very challenging. So then I went to work in the private sector. I worked as a manager in the commercial real estate and development business, and really enjoyed that. And now I was on the other side of the fence. We got to the point where our business is an international company. It was expanding at our location, so I needed to hire. So now I was going to hiring fairs and job conferences, and I was now meeting veterans who were in my shoes, a year or two before. And it was very difficult for them to do what I had been trying to do. So I really now knew what it was like to be on both sides of the fence. What am I looking for as an employer? What kind of skills am I seeking? And I saw veterans making some of the same mistakes that I had been making too. So I always say, and I'm sure a lot of you in this room are probably very well aware, that there's just a huge cultural gap between civilian employers and veterans coming out of the military. And they actually probably have a lot in common, but the problem is one of them speaking German and one is speaking French, and they're just not quite sure how to talk to each other yet. They haven't learned each other's cultures and language. So that's a big challenge. And I think, in my opinion, and I think when you talk to a lot of people who are out there, doing workforce development, when you deal with the military community and then civilian, I would say that is probably the biggest hurdle and the largest barrier right now for veterans finding employment. It's that ability to talk to one another. So that's kind of how I started. Then after we relocated to Michigan, and I knew that I wanted to go back into public service. And it just so happened that the Michigan Veterans Affairs Agency was being stood up at that time. I'd heard about it, just happened that the job came open for this position, and so my background lent very well to this job because I'm working with veterans in a lot of areas, working with employers, I'm working on legislative policy that works on helping veterans find employment. So it turned out to work really well.
Ingrid, we apologize for the interruption and distraction here, but there's music piping in this room, and we're trying to get it turned off because it's very distracting. And so this is a technician, so
I can
he-
dance, I can dance.
There's nothing else running on the laptop?
Somebody's coming to do the pictures to me.
There's a panel right there, is it controlled by the,
There's a panel over there, I'll go over there.
Shouldn't be going to that.
give it one second.
It's like we have a party here. It sounds a little loud over here.
I think it's coming, just turn the volume off on this wall over here. That's where it was yesterday.
Okay, good. So anyway, that's a little bit about my background, how I came to be where I am. I'm going to go into the history, the short history. We're a new agency. I'm going to talk a little about Michigan Veterans Affairs Agency, what our mission is, what we do, and then I'm going to then talk after that, go into veteran hiring initiative and how to implement a program in a company or an organization. But before I do, I always like to get an idea of my audience, who I'm talking to, and get a better assessment of what are your needs, and so I can make sure that I'm focusing more on certain areas than others, if that's what you like. So let's start this side of the room and then wrap our way around. And introduce yourself, talk about your position, and maybe real quickly why you're here today.
Okay. My name is Heather Keller. I'm with New Horizons Computer Learning Centers. I'm the director of our continuing education programs. And we work a lot with veterans, so we have we do a lot of training with veterans. So I'm here not only to help them get IT education, project management education, but also to help them transition into a job. So we work with them once they're done with their training to help them find employment.
Okay, great.
And I'm also with New Horizons, and I'm Heather's counterpart. I work the West Michigan operation. She's in the Detroit metro area, and I work in Lansing, Grand Rapids. What we're finding more and more is that we're being approached by companies saying, we have a veterans hiring initiative, and we need, we could hire 10 veterans if they had this skill set. So what we're trying to do is reverse engineer the training programs to map into these specific jobs.
Yeah.
And that the end goal is always the employment piece.
Okay, great.
Hi, my name is Jessie Ryan. I'm a case manager with WIA, Adult Dislocated Workers, and we also work with veterans as well. Just want to learn a little bit more about how to fill up the gap that you talked about with the servicemen and the employers out there, because that's really huge for us, as case managers, trying to help them with that. They return from services, trying to connect them and close those employment gaps between them and employers. So just some more ideas and solutions, tools, whatever I can.
Okay, we'll help you today.
I'm David Strock, a WIA case manager with Ferndale Michigan Works, and basically she stole my thunder. I can't sum it up any more than that. The only thing that we're doing is that with the new DBOT system in place with the centers, if they're not eligible to speak to the DBOT, what I'm doing is sending out an email to them, telling them that since I'm a prior Air Force myself, prior military, that I'm willing to help them on one too. So that service is available in anything that I can get educated on. That's what I'm doing.
Great.
Virginia Brownlee with Exalta Coding Systems. We've actually were one of the first companies that partnered with TNG and the Michigan Value Vets.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly, yep.
So we were MD2 certified, so we're always looking to increase our pledge of hiring vets. I just attended the Michigan Works Roseville Veteran Boot Camp, and they did an outstanding job with educating and training vets on resumes and interviewing. So we came in from the employer perspective, just giving them tips on do's and don'ts on what they should do when it comes to resumes and interviewing. Excuse me. So I'm here today just to learn more, because we're always wanting to do what we can contribute to reduce unemployment for vets.
I'm Sue Getney, MIS manager for Region 7B, Michigan area. In charge of the ASMA system, putting that in for the military, firefighting stuff. Just here to learn a little bit more about priority service professionals. And anything else I didn't know.
Excuse me. I'm Sherry Plus from Michigan Works in Oakland County. I am the program coordinator for WIA training because I go to David does with the DVOP, and I'm also a business service coordinator in our office, so I do work with employers and have worked with ones that ask specifically for help for DVOP. So just finding out more information.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Deb Doyle. I'm Chief Operating Officer for the Job Force Board, and I'm here to understand how your agency, with an employment focus, works with and coordinates activities with the business service professionals, so there's not a duplication of effort, but a coordination and action.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a great question, so we'll definitely hit on that.
My name is Nikel Diggs. I'm with Southwest Solutions in Detroit. I work with the Homeless Veteran Reintegration Program. I am a job developer. I've been in this position 6 weeks, so I am here to learn as much as I can and meet as many people.
Right?
Hi, I'm General Manager Josh. I work for the Michigan Department of Corrections. I work at Central Michigan Correctional Facility. And we do have a lot of guys that are, well, my job is to basically give guys direction as far as when they get out, as far as what they want to do as far as employment. And I do see quite a few veterans that are getting out of prison, and some of them really don't know what they want to do. Some of them are at that age where they probably won't do much of anything. But the ones that have an idea, I point them in that right direction. So if there's anything I can learn to help them, and because I do a lot of looking stuff up online as far as for veterans and to give them that information.
Okay, good, and that's a good point, and I'll hit on that too in the presentation.
My name's Kevin Benheisen, I'm an employment counselor with the Department of Corrections as well, and also a veteran.
Hi, my name is Dan Stewart from JobLink, Michigan Works in Pontiac. I'm a case manager for the Tighe and WIA program. I'm also the Veterans Functional Coordinator with the DVOP guy. And yeah, I'm basically here just to find out information about the tools and resources that I can, hand out to these veterans that come in.
Sean Sims, I'm a DVOP from Monroe, and I just wanted to hear what's going on within VAA. I mean, I've seen your presentation before, but I know that you guys are improving and evolving, and just want to see what's the latest and greatest from VAA.
Yeah, it's good to see you. Yeah. I always appreciate your emails, you send a lot of good info, so.
How you doing? I'm Richard Martin. I work on the business services team at Capital Area Michigan Works in Lansing, and also I'm a veteran and also a former veteran employment specialist for the state of Michigan. So I'm here because I want to learn how to continue to basically help my employer demand, help them meet their needs through veteran hiring, because clearly they need the supply, and the supply is the job seekers, but we know that not all job seekers are veterans, and so I want to make sure that I have everything I need to make sure that that supply matches the demand on that spectrum.
My name is Brad Holder. I'm a WIA employment specialist at Lansing, and I've been tasked with the opportunity to kind of be the go-to person within WIA for veterans. However, I have a very limited knowledge, and in fact, a lot of times when people would come in, if they were veterans, it's one of those things where as soon as I hear the word veteran, I kind of, it's so big to me that I don't really have a full understanding of what services are available to them. So I want to know a little bit more about what services are available to them, and kind of what other people were saying, how we can bridge that gap and really be able to help them, so people like myself who weren't veterans and don't have as much of a common understanding can still be able to help that individual and provide them the right resources.
Sounds good. Okay, there you are.
Cameron Applejay, DVOP in Grand Rapids. I just saw you knew hard training, but I wanted to see if you had any more new information.
Okay, good. Well, hopefully I can come meet the task, so no pressure.
Lucy Ramirez, I'm a veteran. I work at Capital Area Michigan Works in Lansing, and I'm also a state employee with the Veteran Services Division. I wanted to learn more about your agency.
Hi, I'm Deborah Hardiman, I'm Matt Pleasant, DVOP here in the area. We'll learn more about the Michigan Veterans Affairs agencies. With us, because we're so up north, we have a limited resource. So I really want to learn more about how you're collaborating with the other resources and pulling together for the veterans.
Okay. Hi, Linda Grigsby from, I'm an administrator in the Employment Service Office in Omaha, small
office, but I'm here to learn anything I can to help veterans.
Mike Tucker, Muskegon, Oceana. I run all of our programs and operations manager, so just trying to see, we have a lot of veterans come in, but I think what we struggle with is trying to connect, like you said earlier, connect those skills they learned in the military to how it would match up with an employer. I think it's been pretty difficult for us so far in our area.
I'm Anna Wellman, I'm the Employment Services Manager for Great Lakes Bay Area Michigan Works. And we just want to take most updated information back to our frontline staff and make sure that if somebody referenced the new regulations, making sure that we don't lose people. A lot of us for a lot of years set people straight to veterans rights and making sure that we're not losing people in the shop.
Yeah.
I'm Bernice Kerner, I'm with the Macomb St. Clair Workforce Development Board. I'm the MIS and Special Projects Coordinator, and one of the projects that I'm working on is related to veterans. I have 7 case managers, frontline staff who are running, as Virginia noted, an employability boot camp for veterans, and I wanted to bring them back some resources to use.
Okay, good.
I'm John Dearbussy, and I'm also from the Macomb St. Clair Workforce Development Board. I think one of the things that we're very interested in, we have done pretty well in reaching out to veterans from the Vietnam era forward, but somehow we're not reaching the recently separated veterans of their services. And I'd like to, maybe find out some, mechanisms that we could use to attract them into some of our programming.
Rob Hinton from Northwest Michigan Works, business liaison there. I'm just interested in the tools and resources that you guys have to offer, so I can bring them back to the employers that I work very closely with that are seemingly very keen on hiring veterans, but not being able to hire as many as they want.
My name is Derek Booth, I'm a business development specialist from Nexus in Southwest Michigan. So I work with employers a lot, so just learning more ways to create a popular liberation between the talent development staff and the employers that I work with.
Jan Ennis, I'm a veteran, I got out of the Army about 18 months ago. Took me 8 months to find a job, so I'm really interested in this because just trying to find out how to get the employers to put their money where their mouth is when it comes to hiring veterans. So I'm a manager with Nexus, their workforce development division for Cass County, and I serve as our veterans liaison. I think I have connected with you a few times through your emails.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, who's in your person?
Absolutely.
And I'm Chris Avon, I'm the service center manager for the Michigan Works office in Ann Arbor. I'm actually with the front end, so. One of the significant problems that we're seeing in our area is we have a lot of long-term unemployed veterans that, really need a lot of assistance. So we're kind of trying to figure out some different ways to be able to help serve them.
Well, this is also good. I find it helpful, like I said, to give me some direction too, to make sure I'm emphasizing some points more than others. But it's also a nice thing for the audience too, because sometimes you realize there's certain people in this room that you need to connect with afterwards. So I think it's also very helpful. Do you want to go to the next slide? So first of all, who is the Michigan Veterans Affairs Agency? Like I mentioned, first of all, our purpose and our mission is to serve as a central coordinating point in the state of Michigan for all things veterans. So I know that you in this room are here primarily focused on the employment piece, but we do everything. So we're also looking at healthcare and the benefit side too. And I'll go into that a little more, but as you know, if you don't have transportation, if you don't have your health taken care of, it's hard to show up for work on a daily basis. So everything is very connected. So we need to work in all these areas. Our hope is, and our goal is to become the most veteran-friendly state in the United States. We have a policy called the No Wrong Door policy. Our motto is that if a veteran calls us on our 1-800 number, or if someone accesses us through our website and they say, you know, I have no idea what I'm eligible for with healthcare, I have no idea where to start, I just got out. We'll help them in those areas, we'll connect them to those resources, but then we'll say, you just got out. Are you eligible for the GI Bill? Have you thought about getting your bachelor's degree? What about employment? Are you thinking about employment opportunities? Why don't you connect there? So just kind of making sure that they're also aware of all these other things that are available to them. The history. So like I mentioned earlier, we are a new agency. We're almost in the toddler stage right now. We started March 20th, 2013. Before that, what happened was Governor Snyder came in, very analytical man, was doing some surveys across the board in all the state agencies to see how the state was performing. When they looked at how the state was doing as far as services and benefits were concerned for veterans, and that's, you know, actually getting your pension, getting your benefits in all these different areas, we ranked 53rd. And you're saying 53rd. Wait, last time I checked in geography, we had 50 states. Well, we're even behind Guam, Puerto Rico, DC, so we were bad, just very bad in that area. So Governor Snyder had an executive order issued standing up our agency. And what it did was, we had the Department of Military and Veterans Affairs always, and they at that time oversaw the services and benefits and the National Guard. Well, now what he did was he said, okay, DMVA, you are strictly responsible for National Guard, because that's a huge job in and of itself, and now Michigan Veterans Affairs Agency, you are services and benefits. So now he separated the two. So so they still exist, so we've got the DMVA, you might hear some people refer to General Badney, he oversees that. We are under them as far as umbrella just for administrative reasons, but other than that, we are a separate agency. If you go on, that's okay, if you go back real quickly. We are comprised, we have some things that have existed that have come under our umbrella. You can't go back. Oh, sorry. Oh, there we go. Okay. We've always had, for, I think, pre-World, I think it was World War I can't remember the exact dates, but we have 2 veterans homes in the state. We have one that is up in Marquette, and then the second one is in Grand Rapids. The veterans homes are kind of like elderly homes for retirees, and they're also places for those veterans who need domiciliary care. Domiciliary care is for those individuals who might just need some help getting back on their feet again. So we even have a couple of post 9/11 vets in our Grand Rapids home who just have really had a hard time transitioning out. They're, you know, getting some help with medical, psychological, and you know, with all the different areas, and they're also there too. So they're now under our responsibility. We have approximately 800 employees between those 2 locations. We also oversee the Michigan Veterans Trust Fund. For those of you who are not aware of this, this is an emergency fund that we have. If you run into a veteran who has fallen under hard times and has an emergency situation, they can apply through their county veterans counselor for assistance. So it varies, you know, it depends on the situation. We've had a gentleman get help with dentures, we've had someone get assistance with something for their home when there was a bad storm, we've had issues with transportation. So if it's a one-time thing, it's not a reoccurring problem that's going on, they can apply through the county counselor for emergency funds. So I like to make sure you're all aware of that, because you come in contact with a lot of people. You might have a veteran who comes in who could really use some help and might have had a bad situation happen. So I encourage you to tell them about this Veterans Trust Fund. And it's for veterans who have served during wartime conflict. And the dates are on our website. Now, they don't have to necessarily have been boots on the ground in that location, but they have to have served during that period. Yes.
That's what I wanted to know,
Yeah.
because I was told that oftentimes they were turned down because they weren't in wartime.
Mm-hmm. And it's very specific on the website, defines those dates, so you know, World War II, Vietnam, so you can get that information from our website. We have a link to that. The new part of our strategy, of our agency is we have 3 sections. We have a strategy section. That's where I fall under. There are 4 areas that we look at. So we basically have 4 pillars of services and benefits. We have the employment area, we have healthcare, we have education, and then we have quality of life. And quality of life encompasses everything that doesn't fit neatly into the first three buckets. So if you are looking for information about veteran courts, homelessness, housing, you talk about corrections, information on those individuals. And then some of the more fun things like recreational licenses and activities. Someone needs information maybe about how to get the new Michigan driver's license with the V designation to show that you're a veteran. So with the Secretary of State, so we have information, we can help with that. The strategic communications section, that oversees not only our agency communications and PR and marketing, but they also have a Veteran Resource Service Center. And I'll give this number to you later, but it's a 1-800 number. We are staffed from 8 till 5 every Monday through Friday. We have a team of individuals, all veterans, who will help anybody. I mean, so all of you can call if you have questions about anything veteran related. Veterans can call any organization, and they will connect you with the information and resources that you need. After hours, we have partnered with the United Way with the Michigan 211 system. Are you all familiar with 211? So they are trained for that also to help with veteran issues after hours. So we just announced that partnership. Right now, the statistics show we've got about 60 people a day calling in, getting help, and we hope that grows. And the last thing is targeted outreach and performance management. I mentioned we have county counselors who help with veteran services and benefits, but we also have personnel who are contracted through like the Disabled American Veterans, the VFW. Those are individuals who are in those organizations who are paid through a contract to also help veterans when they need to process their services and benefits. Next slide. Just some quick demographics for you. We are the 11th largest population of veterans in the U.S. That's pretty significant. So knowing that we were 53rd, but we have the 11th largest population, that was not a good thing. Just FYI, we have gone up since the inception of the agency. So it's in the low 40s last I heard. I don't know the exact number, but we're improving. So that's good news. As you can see, we have a lot of older people, and I think this probably won't surprise you, but a lot of our older veterans tend to be in the upper Mitten area and the UP. Younger veterans the larger populations of younger veterans, and the preponderance of them are in the Kent County, in the West Side region, and Metro Detroit, and then Jackson area. So it makes sense that a lot of them have come back to some of the bigger cities. Not to say that we don't have younger up there, but just to show you the kind of shift. And I think that also falls in line a lot with just the demographics of the state. And we have 660,000 veterans in the state. Next slide. Here's just that actual picture representation of what I just said, the demographics. So you can see Wayne, Oakland, Macomb, Kent, really the heavy areas. Next slide. I mentioned to you we have the wrong door policy. What I wanted to tell you about is just sort of some of the initiatives that we have going on, so you're aware of them, and you can also participate in these. We have a pilot going on. 2 areas. One is on the west side of the state that I mentioned, Kent County and the surrounding counties around it. If you have been paying attention to the prosperity zones, you all know that Michigan's been broken up into 10 prosperity regions. So that region over there on the west side is one of our pilot areas, and the other pilot area is Macomb, Wayne, and Oakland County area. And what we've done is they have formed coalitions in those 2 groups where anyone who has anything veteran related comes together. They meet monthly as a large group, and they also have subcommittee meetings in the 4 areas like we do in our 4 pillars. And so you have groups like Goodwill Industries who show up, and Red Cross, and we have Michigan Works who attend, and all the local community partners, and it's been very interesting. It's just trying to, first of all, form a network of resources. So if you do encounter a veteran who needs something that you can't help or you can't provide in the area, you know who does. It's also a good way to help weed out some of those people who are not really there for the right reasons. There are some organizations set up that aren't legitimate or don't really offer veteran services. Sometimes they're there for the wrong reasons. So it helps us kind of vet through that. Just kind of an interesting example, the Wayne, Macomb, and Oakland County group, we had a table, this was early on in the stage of the pilot, and there was a table of maybe 15 individuals, and a woman said, I'm having a really hard time. We help people who are homeless, but a lot of the homeless people that we're getting also have a lot of substance abuse issues, but we're not fit and we're not trained to address those. Well, a guy on the other end of the table said, well, we work with substance abuse issues, but we have no place to house these individuals. And we said, aha, perfect, you two need to talk afterwards. So it was just those kinds of examples and opportunities where people are just coming to the same location and realizing that they can partner and collaborate. Once these pilots are done, so I show you the 2 pilot areas, the goal is to use those models and lessons learned to break those out into the rest of Michigan. We realize that not every region of Michigan has the same exact needs, but it gives us a good idea of best practices and things that work and things that don't. Next slide. This is just our agency infrastructure. Our director is also RAC War vet and former commander, so he's very passionate about this too, and we have a lot of veterans. I sometimes get the question, I hear that you all don't have veterans working for your organization. I would say, and that's not true, I'd say we're probably about maybe 60% veteran, roughly, the others are civilians. I think it makes for a nice mix. I say that, for instance, because my colleague in education, she works in academia, she's an adjunct professor, she understands the administrative side, so it's a good variable. It's nice that we have people from, we have a social worker on staff, so we have a lot of people with varied backgrounds. So it's, I think, a healthy mix of both military and civilian backgrounds. Next slide. Again, the strategy, we're in call. Keep going. Employment, some of the large initiatives that we have going on in our area, so you're aware of what we're doing. One of the things that I'm going to be talking about at the end of this presentation is the Veteran Hiring Initiative, and that's where a lot of you wanted some tips for working with your organizations. Another area that I oversee and am responsible for is licensing and credentialing. So I will work with legislators in the policy area and help create laws that help veterans go back to work much more quickly. So for instance, it does not make sense if you were a phlebotomist in the military to have to get out of the military and then they say, sorry, you have to go back to community college, get your certification in phlebotomy, then go through for the licensing and go through several months till you can work again. So we're working on initiatives where we identify careers where you can get credit for your education, your training, and your experience in the military, and immediately just come back to Michigan, apply for your license, and go back to work. So we want to get people back to work faster. 5 bills were signed this year, Boilermakers in the Navy, EMTs, firefighters, building contractors. We've also then passed a lot of laws for, bless you, waiving fees, at least for those who are electricians, so at least you can get your electrical license, journeyman license, you can get that fee waived for the first time. So we're trying to do things like that to help veterans get back to work. I work very closely with my partner in education because some skills and some jobs in the military aren't an exact translation into the civilian world. So a good example is if you were a medic in the military, you have a lot of skills to become a paramedic, but you still need a few more classes to get there. So Lansing Community College is an example of where you can go if you show that you have competency as a medic. Then they give you credit for a lot of those basic courses. You take just a few additional to become a paramedic, and then they've even partnered to, if you want to keep going further, to then go and become a nurse. So it's those fast track programs that again just help you get into a job much more quickly. So we're working on those types of things. Employment Council, we have an Employment Council with directors of many of the state agencies, some of the federal agencies, and then local level groups who deal with veteran employment. So Luann Dunsford from Michigan Works, Christine Quinn from Workforce Development, Amy Sell, Michigan Economic Development Corporation. We have Mike Poimer from the USVA. It's just to give you a few examples. So we come together, we identify what does each agency provide, what are the services that they provide when it comes to veterans employment, and we've identified a lot of where the gaps are in the employment, where's the redundancy, and how do we streamline that process and make it more efficient. And then we identify other programs and things where we can all work together and collaborate. Human resource training, that is a program where we go out, work with employers, conferences, you mentioned Michigan Values Vet, so it's the same idea where we have a conference level, so hello, welcome.
Good morning.
So we welcome conference people, and we teach these mostly HR specialists and also CEOs and C-level suite people too. We explain to them what is the value of hiring a veteran, and here's some best practices and some procedures you can implement to get a program in place in your organization. And then last, entrepreneurship. 45% of veterans become entrepreneurs. Huge. I think, that's larger than the civilian comparison. There's a lot of people that are just independent, and they want to get out there, so we work with groups like the Small Business Administration, Vet Biz Central, with the federal group, with the DoD, on programs, loans, resources that help those vets who identify they want to go the small business route. Next slide. Education, I mentioned my colleague, just a few things. One of the many things, vet-friendly campuses, which campuses actually have programs on campus to help veterans apply easily, again, identify what they want to do, assimilate, etc. And I won't go into all the details of this, but Vet Education Initiative, we're also working with partners to put counselors who are trained in helping veterans and working with all the programs. Healthcare, these are just a few ideas. We are working with the federal VA and the local state of Michigan community mental health organizations, trying to partner and bring together resources. So if a veteran walks in any of those doors and needs mental health help, we don't want to have to say, oh, I'm sorry, you actually qualify for VA. Yeah, you might be suicidal, but good luck. You need to go down the street to the VA. And the VA says, well, actually, we've got a waiting list. So we don't want to deal with this. So we want to have a seamless, quick transition, help these individuals deal with the administrative stuff and have a process in the back end. Telehealth is the idea that for those who are in rural areas can get initial care and some diagnosis through like a video teleconference program. Okay, we'll just go on. And last, we have some corrections gentlemen here, prisoner reentry, so working on some of those programs, dealing with veterans who are coming back into the civilian workforce, working with those who are veteran treatment courts. We have 19 veteran treatment courts in the state and more that are coming. It's the idea, they're similar for those of you who are not familiar with this concept. It's kind of like a drug court. It's the idea that maybe you're a veteran, maybe you were in Afghanistan, Iraq, had a lot of, you're suffering from PTSD and you're having a lot of issues, and now you come home and you're self-medicating with drinking and over-the-counter drugs, and you've done some stuff, DUI, or done some stuff that maybe you probably wouldn't have done if you hadn't had service. So it's the idea that you give these individuals a chance, they're paired with mentors, they go through court. Now, it's a long process. It's not like a typical court process where you go through in a few months. You're kind of in this long probation period where you have to meet with a judge on a more regular basis. You have to meet with a mentor. You have to fulfill certain obligations like going to mental health care treatment. But if successful, and we have I think they said a 0% recidivism with those who graduate from the veteran treatment court program, that kind of violation can be expunged from the record. So it's really successful plan, and it's been working very well around the nation. So we're working with our counties on that. Again, in housing and recreational opportunities. Next slide. So some of the things, obviously we work very closely with Michigan Works. So you want to know how is it that we work with you, and I'll go into that. We work with the Detroit Chamber of Commerce and the local chambers. Talent 2025, for those of you who are on the west side. West side, people raise your hand again. Do any of you work with 2025? So it's the idea that you have identified your goals for making, is Michigan top 10, is that correct, for Talent 2025, place to do business and to be, and I think there's 70 companies involved in that program. We have also partnered in certain events. We had a CEO level conference where Governor Snyder spoke. We partnered with him, the Detroit Chamber, and we talked to a room full of senior executives, C-level suite, CEOs, and CFOs on the value of hiring a veteran. Why does a veteran make good sense? Not because it's, sure, it's nice you wave the flag, but that only goes so far. But why is it good for business? What are the skills that they bring? Why does it make sense? So talk to them about that, because I think if you don't have senior leadership on board, it's sometimes hard to get the rest of the team to follow. So we addressed them. We also were at Mackinac Policy Conference and the Michigan Auto Conference. We presented panels at each of these 3 places. We had veterans stand up. We had a group apply, and we had them stand up and do an elevator speech for a couple minutes, talk about why they were, what their background was, and why they make valuable employees. And it really has, again, it's a strong impact on the business community about the value added. And then we work on workshops such as this. Next one. Keep going. Actually, not yet, I'm sorry. A few things that I want to talk about. I mentioned licensing and credentialing, but one of the programs that we have that, for those of you when you deal with employers, that you can advise them of is we have the Michigan Veterans Affairs Agency, the Veteran Friendly Employer Program. So an employer, if this group or organization implements certain criteria, they can earn a bronze, a silver, or gold level status. And they are recognized. We have a place on our website where that's located. And it does a couple things. It helps those employers who may have nothing in place. It kind of gives them a framework, like, okay, if I've done these things, that helps me reach bronze. If I've done silver or gold, it rewards companies for their hard work. It helps drive talent and veterans who are visiting our website, helps them recruit top talent and veterans. It's also good for veterans on the other side, because now they can identify good companies that they could assimilate very quickly into, that are supportive of them. So we have several employers right now. So I'd recommend that if you come across an employer who wants to do something with veterans, that's one way to start.
Who's in charge of that program for you guys? You are. So, and I apologize for my tardiness.
No, it's fine.
My name is actually Daryl Badley. I'm with a company called Winning the Training Game out of Richmond, Virginia. I also sit and sat on the initial V3 pilot program, Virginia Viability Pilot Program with TNG.
Yep.
My company was the second gold certified V3 certified company in the state of Virginia, only behind TNG and Tom Bart and Joe Bartow and the whole team. I also sit on the interagency team, so I was one of the ones among other industry professionals that actually helped create that program in the state of Virginia with Joe Bartow. And what we did was we actually took, it was a partnership, partnership where we actually took industry professionals, and we took government agencies, and we took businesses, and we took veterans. So I was a veteran that was hired. So it's kind of cool, here I am now speaking in another state on a program that I was hired into 2.5 years ago, and then became a spokesperson and a board member of a program. So it works. It works, it works, it works. One of the things that I wanted to ask is, with the bronze, silver, and gold categories, who are you working with as far as other agencies that you're working with and working?
Yeah, right now it's just our agency. As we meet employers when we're at these conferences, we tell them about that. And then now that we're partnering with workforce development and MEDC, we ask that those business development managers, those business solution professionals, as they encounter these employers, that they can educate them on this program. TMG, so she mentions using Michigan Values Vets. So our program is very similar to theirs. We did something a little different, where we tied ours a little more to state of Michigan goals and metrics. So kind of on a similar idea, but for instance, the bronze level phase is the commitment to hire. So you've said, okay, I'm hiring 700, I have a large employer I'm working with, 700 employees is their goal for this next year. And so we said, okay, your commitment, they're looking at approximately a 7 to 10% veteran population of that group. So they've committed to almost 50, 70 veterans. of that group, they've shown us that they're linking on some of our resources, like we asked them, one of the requirements is to link on and post those jobs on mytalent.org, to also post on veteran websites, and then also to educate those new employees on our Michigan Veterans website, so they know about their benefits they're eligible for, that they can get access in the state of Michigan. So we try to also tie it to state level programs that are available to them and federal. And then the silver level stage now is where that employer has proved that they've actually hired those individuals. They put their money where their mouth is. Now they're implementing some programming, such as, for instance, an on-the-job training program. They continue to work with veterans with an onboarding process. They have, for instance, we have a veteran service officer will make appointments to come in and sign all their current veterans on staff, sign them up for their federal benefits, their state benefits, to also help them in healthcare in those other areas. And then the goal is proof of retention, because it's all fine and dandy to hire someone, but if your people are leaving 30 to 60 days later, it's not doing the employer any good, it's not doing the veteran any good. So we want to make sure now they have implemented more, sophisticated programs, we could say. So as an example, we'll say, for instance, look at General Electric. They have a very good veteran program in their company, and one of the many things they do is a 2-year rotational program for individuals. So someone can come in, 2 years, they'll go through 6-month rotations in different areas of the business, so they can get an idea of what is the logistics area like, what is finance like, what is resourcing like, maybe go into the HR, and it gives them an idea of all the different areas, maybe gives them a better idea of where they'll fit in better, and that company can see where that individual fit in. So it's a really good win-win situation, and then assuming there are spaces, then they can potentially be hired on permanently at the end of the 2 years. Quicken Loans is doing something similar, but theirs is a shorter internship-like program. They call it Tour of Duty, 6-month program. But those kind of things where you're helping those individuals, veterans, to assimilate. Remember when I talked about when I first started, as a veteran, I didn't know what I didn't know about the civilian world. I had no idea about, like, when someone asked me what I thought about sourcing, I had no idea what sourcing was at first. So you had to learn about all these different things. So I think it's very helpful for both. So thank you for bringing that up. So I encourage you, you can find information for this program on our website. We have Veteran Expos coming up. We have one we had one in Marquette and one in Grand Rapids. Both of them were very successful. We had a lot of people get jobs out of this event. We had people sign up for services and benefits. We have the next one coming up in Detroit. It's November 7th and 8th at the Cobo Center. So that starts at 11 a.m. That Friday goes to 8 p.m. that night, and then on Saturday from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. We have partnered with the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, so they will be running a Hiring Our Heroes job fair on that Saturday of the event. So from 9 to 3, you can tell individuals who are veterans who also are looking for some opportunities. We now have, I think, approximately 60, 70 employers who are signed up right now for the hiring fair portion. We'll also have some of your colleagues from Michigan Works will be there to help those individuals who need help with resume writing, to learn about My Talent. We have the USVA with their counselors coming. The vocational rehab counselors will be there to also talk to them about finding jobs and opportunities. Also, for the entrepreneurs who need some information on the Friday of that event, we have partnered with the VA, and we are doing a 6-hour class, and that actually starts at 9 a.m. on the Friday. And so we have partnered, we're going to have all-day workshops and showcases with the Small Business Administration, the VA, Vet Biz Central, state contracting, federal contracting, to all give information and resources. In the afternoon, we'll also have roundtables with industry leaders in manufacturing, healthcare, and those areas to help those veteran entrepreneurs. We also have some tax professors coming in from MSU. We're going to talk about, they're doing a tax clinic on how do you even start a business, how do you file, what are the tax implications, what do you do? There's a lot to go in, it goes into it. I don't know if any of you have ever done the entrepreneurship thing, but it can be kind of daunting. So this is just to help them get on their feet. We have the former Undersecretary of the VA, John Garcia. He will be there and assisting with this event. So we're very excited. So as you run into individuals, please let them know about this. We're very excited. And you're welcome. We'd love to also have you all stop in if available.
Question. I have, and maybe I've missed it. Have you mentioned anything about National Guard and reservists?
I'll be getting there.
Okay.
Yes, I'll be getting
So
there.
I'll be quiet.
I also wanted to mention to you a program that we have. Yes.
With the Vet Expo, do people have to register ahead of time? Is there limited?
As an exhibitor, you have to register ahead of
But
time.
as an attendee?
As an attendee, you do not. You can just come in and register.
And is
you
there
have
a
to go.
fee?
No, it's free for exhibitors, free for veterans, free for everybody. Parking and everything. So, yeah, we want to make sure that it's accessible to all. That's a good question, though. Reboot. This is a program that we have going on. We have a group out of San Diego who's been doing this for a couple of years. It's a 3-week class program that helps veterans to get back in the workforce. So for those of you who are not veterans, we always say, you join the military, you go to boot camp for 6 to 8 weeks, you spend all that time being broken down and built back up in a certain way and learning to act and dress and do certain things. But then when you go to get out of the service, you have about 2 days of out processing, a couple of pieces of paper you stamp. You just want to get the heck out of town. You're done, you're ready for a new life. And then you get out, and then, again, and going back to my original point in the very beginning, is, okay, you have no clue about the civilian world as far as jobs and what's out there and resources available to you. So this is the idea that they take veterans for 3 weeks. They go through emotional, psychological, professional training on the entire transition from military to civilian. Those individuals who have graduated that we've talked to love it. They've said it is amazing. Now, San Diego has the advantage that, I mean, they can pretty much get these guys coming off the ship, and then right into their class. We're a little more challenged because veterans are scattered around Michigan. But we have 4 cohorts coming up. These are also on our website, but the first one is going to be in October. It's coming up in a couple weeks. It's free. Free. I mean, it's awesome. All an individual has to be responsible for is his transportation and his lunch to the event. Everything else, like I said, it's I think it's 9 to 5 or 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, 3 weeks, free training. So for those of you who have access, unemployed individuals, this is perfect for them. I mean, this is a great opportunity. The one in Detroit that we're having in October is at Piquette Square. So please tell people if you run into them, maybe someone who's in transition or someone who's unemployed, who's a veteran, I think would really profit from this. And then we'll have one in Grand Rapids, we'll do one in Lansing, and they're going to do a 4th one that's an all-female cohort. These cohorts are 25 individuals each, and they have said that their experience is that when they have all women in a room with no males, that it's a completely different dynamic. That sometimes and they bring in counselors and people to deal with the women on certain days, because they said that they have found that women suddenly start to divulge information about military sexual trauma or even other issues that happened before the military, things that have really impeded them from progressing professionally. And so they said that those are things that have not come out when it's a mixed cohort. So they're going to do an all-female one too. Yes?
Are there carpool services for any of these expos or conferences? Because I'm just envisioning people from Lansing. I don't think it's realistic for some of the people in Lansing to be able to get all the way out to Detroit, some of the ones I'm thinking of specifically. So I don't know if there's any services provided as far as that goes.
Yeah, we don't have any organized right now. That's been one of the challenges. If we get some more, we'll post those, but right now we don't have any that we're actually promoting from this event.
Okay.
Yeah, so unfortunately we're not there on that yet.
Okay.
Yeah. So again, information is on, I'm going to go to our website at the end of this presentation to talk to you a little about that, but for Reboot. Okay, next slide please. The resource center I mentioned. So again, anything veteran related that you have a question on, employment, healthcare, education, call this number. This is 1-800-MISH-VET. Any veteran that you come across, please just tell them 1-800-MISH-VET. Give them a call, find out what they're eligible for. They can talk about federal benefits, they can talk to them about state programming, and then local and community things going on. So 1-800-MISH-VET. I say if you take away anything from today, if I bored you and put you to sleep, you're gonna remember this, 1-800-MICHVET and MichiganVeterans.com. I know, especially for those who are counselors and who are seeing individuals on a daily basis, you're pumping them through, it gets busy. And I know that for those who are DVOPs in the room, the Disabled Veteran Outreach Program Specialists, you are federally, I say handcuffed, like you are federally not allowed to work with certain individuals. You have a mandate that you work with certain people. And that's those veterans with barriers to employment. So if you do get a veteran who does not have a barrier, but you are seen by other counselors, I think you mentioned back here that now it's changed a little, now everyone's seeing veterans. So you might not be familiar with GI Bill. You might not be familiar with a lot of this stuff. And that's okay. Just tell them information's at MichiganVeterans.com or the 1-800 number. Nothing else, just say, hey, good working with you. Please check out these two, the website and call and get more information on everything else. So that's what we want to just make sure is if you have no time at all, to at least tell them those two things. This is the website, right here, the homepage. Cutest little girl, I think, in the world. Next slide, please. So again, our 4 tiers: employment, education, healthcare, and quality of life, and then information on the veterans' homes right here. For those who wanted information on the trust fund, if they county counselors are going to be listed right here. You can get our contact information right here, news clips right here, and then again policy. So information about credentialing, licensing, and all those other areas is there. If you run into someone who's got some real severe urgent issues, suicidal, things like that, the crisis hotline is right there. Veteran crisis hotline. Yes.
Do you have any brochures that you give out at all?
We do.
That, like, you could get?
Yeah, and if you leave me your card and we can see if we can get some sent to you. If you go to the employment area, the employment section has 2, they say bifurcates, it splits into 2 areas. You can enter in the employment button, or you can enter, veterans seeking employment, or employers seeking veterans. So if you go and you're a veteran, you can get information about finding a job, it has information on My Talent, some of the other tools, licensing, and starting a business. Next slide. As an employer, we have information about the value of hiring veterans, information on tax credits. For those of you who get the question from employers, right now, tax credits, there are tax credits, but right now, basically they have to get approved in Congress. It has not been approved yet, but it's one of those things that usually gets renewed. So the advice that we give is tell employers to go ahead and get that paperwork ready, file for the work opportunity tax credit. That way when it is approved, and because I think chances are very slim that it won't be, then it's ready to be processed. So there are tax credits available. I like to talk about on that same topic is, things about hiring veterans. When you talk to employers, not only do they come with the skills, the leadership, the experience, but sometimes when you think of the money, the return on investment, you might identify an amazing individual and say this gentleman has had a lot of leadership but didn't get his bachelor's degree. But he's coming out with the opportunity to use the GI Bill. So as an employer, you might be crunched for funds. A lot of people are cutting back on finances, and a lot of companies don't have tuition assistance anymore. So if you can think outside the box and maybe give the gentleman evenings free, or work with him on the weekends, or let him off at 4 o'clock a couple days a week to go do classes using his GI Bill, now you're working with an individual who you've identified as top talent, who just needs that bachelor's, and you can get them to that point, but it's not costing you anything, it's just flexibility. Also, if you think about someone who's coming off of active duty individuals have their last move paid for. So again, you might meet someone and they're coming in from out of state, or they are interested in possibly coming out of state. As an employer, maybe again you don't have the money to pay for their transport of goods and household goods, because it's expensive. That's sometimes a $15,000 to $20-some thousand cost. So you can think about that. That's incentive that, one less thing you have to pay for. Or what I like to tell employers, maybe you're competing for an individual and with another company, and we really want him in Michigan, or you really want, maybe instead of using that household move that you would be normally paying for, maybe that gives you some leverage to offer a bonus instead. Hey, we'll give you a $10,000 signing bonus. Because knowing that you have, so you kind of have to think outside the box and be creative. So I like to tell employers that when you're hiring veterans, those are some things that you can do. Next slide. Ta-da! We have your page. We talk about, we also educate our employers on Veteran Services Division with Workforce Development, what it is you do. When we deal with employers, we also, I always tell employers, when someone comes, if a veteran's going to walk through a brick and mortar location, they are likely to walk through a Michigan Works store. And so I give them information on Michigan Works and their closest location. And I tell them about what a DBOP can do, or the other counselors. I also say, go to and make contact as an employer with your federal VA, your closest office. And I have information on those vocational rehab counselors who help veterans. They help veterans with disabilities. But again, they can help, and they can help connect. So it's a good idea for employers. You say, oh, if you keep in good contact, as you know, and you develop these relationships with people, and you're telling them about what kind of job opportunities you have open. Next slide. When it comes to online resources, I mentioned, as many of you know in this room, mytalent.org, mitalent.org. That's a way to post your jobs and also find individuals who are veterans. H2H, so in the last couple weeks, and I had to send these slides in before, many weeks ago for this presentation. H2H has been changed. It is now, as you know, it's now U.S. Military Pipeline. It is a website that is only for veterans and service members. And USMilitaryPipeline.com is the same company that owns it. And service members, veterans, and their spouses can put their profiles and resumes on this. And it's great because it's more than a monster.com. It has a skills translator. So it allows you to put in your MOS, your military occupational code, to get an idea of what kind of civilian professions you might translate into. And it helps civilian employers to understand better what some people in the military did. So it's more advanced in the fact that it helps you do what they call skill latticing, and it helps identify for potential crossover. So I want to bring your attention to those two. I always tell people those are the two online resources that I recommend. Yes?
Is there a cost associated for employers when they use this?
Not on this, no.
It's free?
Mm-hmm, it's free. I think they have some kind of enhanced services that you can get where you pay for those, but the basic services, which is really all you need, are free. And there's also things, if you want information on skills, translating, you can go to onet.com. That's a Department of Labor website where they also have really good information on industries, skills translation from military to civilian, and some jobs. Yes?
Ingrid, was it H2H that was funneling into the MI Talent Connect? Is that still going on with this?
Yeah, now it's going on with instead this US. So not to get too technical, but the pipeline has always been the back of that online service. It's just it was branded as H2H, but because the H2H contract changed, they just have now gone back to be this.
So when I register as a speaker, it's going into MI Talent Connect?
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't go the other way, however?
It will go both ways, but that has not been completed yet.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, that's not done yet. So what he's talking about is we're working with MEDC, WDA, and MBA on a technical integration of the mytalent.org and this website, so you can get on for all Michiganders looking for jobs in Michigan. It will allow you to register and then get access just directly into this website, so you don't have to put two profiles in. Yes, Sean?
I got an email recently that H2H was changed to Vet Connect.
So H2H, this is going to get complicated, I don't want to bore you guys, but H2H was a contract with the DOD. And they broke that contract. So all those H2H jobs are transferred over here to here. And now the DOD has said we're not doing we're not going forward with this contract anymore. So they recommend the VA Vet Connect. It's just the DOD's preferred resource now. So
We're also making a move toward the ski benefits and taking more employment pieces into it. Is that gonna be the same thing?
same thing.
Okay.
Same thing. Yeah, so more to follow on that. But I just wanted to make sure you're aware of that. While I'm here, that's gonna be the last slide anyway, so I'll show you here on the website. I'm gonna sit for a minute. If I just show you the Michigan Veterans website too, just so you're aware. If you go back to the original carousel here, that's the announcement of the call center recently. We had, if you want to learn anything about our agency and the strategic plan, you need something to put you to sleep at night before you read. The reboot workshop, I mentioned the reboot, so you want specific dates, locations, how to register is all right there. Our Veteran Expo, for people who are interested, they can get info there. And then that's just a picture of our most recent Vet Expo. Yes.
For the reboot, is that available also for reservists and guardsmen?
Yes.
Who have deployed and are unemployed?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Now, you asked a great question about National Guard and Reserve. Again, one of the many things that we can do is part of our employment council that I mentioned earlier, and the group we work with is we work very closely with the reservists and the National Guard. Brigadier General Stone is on our council, and they have an employment officer. So one of the things we can do with employers who are interested is we can make appointments to bring those employers to guard posts on drill weekends or reserve posts. So if someone says, we know there's a drill weekend, a company says down Midland, and they're looking maybe for people who are interested in security, maybe they want to really focus on an area where we have an MP company located, military police, we can help coordinate that. So you have a captive audience at parade rest listening to you. So, yeah, we can go first.
Go ahead.
Do you team with Buddy to Buddy for that at all?
We work with Buddy Buddy, so Buddy to Buddy is involved with us in those pilots.
Okay.
So they offer, so that's a great program.
So my question, I'm actually an area chairman for employee support of the Guard and Reserve.
Yes, you are one of our partners.
So
Yeah.
that was my question, because a lot of the initiatives that you were launching, in Virginia, we were tied neck to neck with the V3 program. Matter of fact, truth be told, the V3 program was actually a spin-off and an offshoot of the ESGR SOS program.
Yes.
So that's kind of how it got
They're one of
started.
our many partners. So, again, going back to that veteran-friendly employer program, many of our requirements is you have to do an ESGR statement of support. You have to go through one of their classes on USERA, which is the rules and regulations for employers that, they can't fire someone because they're drill weekend, or they have to take their 2 weeks of leave. So we work very closely. So it's the idea that we try to make sure that we get veterans or National Guard and reservists also connected to employers. And that's a big group. But one of the things we tell employers is keep in mind, when you're in the Guard, when you're in the reserves, you're going through random urinalysis checks and drug screens. So you're getting clean individuals. You're getting people who are physically fit. People who have security clearances. So you know that their background checks are going to come out. You know that these are individuals who are obviously have a lot of great skill, leadership skills and other skills. So they really make great employees. So I like to also make sure that we tell employers about that. Yes.
I think the reason that I bring that up with this group specifically is because a lot of times National Guard and reservists aren't looked at as veterans. Even in some of the pipelines. I know one of the things that I've been working on specifically in Virginia is the fact that currently National Guard reservists that have not served active duty, are kind of in limbo when it comes to like these duplicated workers. Right now, all vets are considered duplicated workers, except those that are National Guard reservists that have not served any active duty time. So that's kind of one thing that I've been working on. But what I want everybody here to know is that all National Guard and reservists are veterans and should be looked at and viewed as a veteran for any programming that you're doing in your locality or anything initiative that you're looking for, because they are that.
Yeah, that's a good point. So, I recommend that. So, and so now I've been talking, a lot of the things I've been talking about are really all steps and things and resources that you can tell employers or tell your other organizations about for our veteran hiring initiative. I always say, like I said, if someone's coming in person as a veteran, reach out and form relationships with Michigan Works and the regional VA offices. You tell them about these online resources, and I know a lot of you already use My Talent, but the other one is a great one. The in-person resources such as veteran expos. Like I mentioned, we have this partner with the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, so when we're not doing the expos, we're also doing the Hiring Our Heroes job fairs around the state, and those come in, and we partner with the VA. So that's another great resource. I tell veterans and employers, make sure you're reaching out to the Legion, the VFW, Team Red, White, and Blue, organizations that you know where veterans are going to congregate and where you're going to find people. And just start, it's all about, as you all know, it's all about networking. I mean, to be honest, I think a lot of jobs a majority of jobs come through networking and meeting people in person versus the online application process, which helps, but you have to, I would say, you have to take a multifaceted approach and hit it from all angles. You've got to do everything. So the Veteran Expos, Reboot, those are all programs. I also, mentioned to people to, check our website on a regular basis, and just really get out there. You got to put yourself out there. So I put out a lot of information. I know I probably inundated it, so FYI, a lot of it is on this, most of it's on this website. My email address is, it's Tighe, my last name's Tighe, T as in tango, I as in India, G as in golf, H as in hotel, E as in echo, and then my first initial I. So Tighe at michigan.gov. So if you want to reach out, if you have questions, I can also send you, I have a packet with all this information. So I mentioned, for instance, the VA regional offices. If you want those names and numbers of those individuals, I can send that to you in the packet. Again, our employment officer, the National Guard, our USGR rep. I can educate on someone else out there. Yeah, yes.
Ingrid, if we get a call from an employer, can we refer them directly to you if they're doing recruiting, hiring, retaining, all that type of thing?
Yeah, and one thing I always like to make sure, and it's a great question, I'm glad you asked that, is emphasizes we don't have field agents like you do at the Michigan Works office. So when I get employers who say, I am looking for veterans, I'm looking for quality veterans, or I have this job where I have 10 openings for pipe fitters right now, our procedure is that we push that out to the regional directors of the Veteran Service Division to disperse out to Michigan Works, and we advise them to put on My Talent. Like I said, we're not staffed. So I want to always make sure I emphasize that Michigan Works counselors are really good at what they do. So we refer them to those individuals in the VA group. And then again, we have business development managers and MEDC, we have business solution professionals, so we also refer people to that. So I also want to make sure that you're clear on that we're not, sometimes I think there's some worry that we're here to take those jobs and do that, and that's not our role at all. Yes.
I know one of the things that I did the lever position for a little bit, and in doing some research, one of the things that they said was effective for employers was to get a veteran link on their company website.
Mm-hmm.
Are you developing something that can be given to employers so that they don't have to go out and reinvent the wheel? Is there any moves going?
A couple things. If you become a veteran-friendly employer, so a few things. Part of that is, we advise, part of that process is to create a PR and a social media campaign. So advertise it on your website, social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram campaign, do internal advertisement to your local employees, start a referral process. If you obtain bronze, silver, gold level, you get an icon for your website to use. We put your information on our website under the employment area, so we're referring people back and forth. We also advise employers when we talk to them, identify a veteran in your organization and have them work, maybe it's a volunteer basis, or maybe you allow them, even if it's a supply management person, but it's a veteran, you have them work with your HR team, and maybe once every 2 weeks or once a month, you just set all veteran resumes aside. And that veteran can help you look through and say, oh, well, this guy, yeah, maybe his resume, it's okay, and he identified he made bombs, but you know what? He talks about deploying to Iraq. If this guy can get bombs over to Iraq from Fort Hood, Texas, then I'm sure we can get some packages with UPS. You know, it's that kind of translation that sometimes people don't understand. So he can at least help you identify, or oh, this person came in as an E1 and they made E6 in 2 to 3 years. That's fast. This guy must have been a super guy if he got promoted so quickly. So it's someone who's got that ability to key in on those things that a civilian HR person might not. That is advantageous. So I think it's just like I'm getting the hook in the gong here.
Kindly, but I think we ought to give Ingrid a round of applause. And I'm sure she will stick around for a few minutes.
Yeah, I'll stick around.
If you have some other questions, we don't want to hold you for lunch until 11:45, so.
You're right, Michigan is speaking, and he's
And you'll get an evaluation for a seal online after the conference.
Other questions that might be able to answer?
Yeah.
Is there any resource?